Call me Burks. I got into the martial arts actually when I was 15. I got involved in judo for a while. I had a brother that was 4 years older than me that him and I did a lot of fighting together. He didn't want me to be picked on and stuff like that. So he basically taught me how to fight. And then when I was 15 years old, I went to work at a restaurant that my oldest brother was running, and I got into it with a guy that worked there one time, and come to find out he was a brown belt in judo. Well, I'd invited him out back, and luckily for me, he didn't go with me. And so then he asked me if I would like to start learning judo, and so I started working with him. And so, it really got me interested in the martial arts. But I'd heard about karate, and that's what I really wanted to do, because that's what I grew up doing, is kicking and punching and stuff like that. So, it was several years on down the road before I could get involved in that. I didn't get involved in that till I was 18 years old, and I actually started the same day my son was born, June 15th, 1966. And it was just something I instantly fell in love with. Very first class I went to, I got to fight 5 fights, all against brown belts. I come out of it looking like I'd been in a car wreck. Texas had a term at that time called light contact, which meant 1-inch penetration to the face and 3-inch penetration to the body with no gear on. We didn't even wear mouthpieces. So, a couple setbacks during life, back surgery, stuff like this. And I finally wound up making black belt in Taekwondo under a guy named Larry Castor, who was considered the toughest guy that ever came out of the Alan Steen regime. And then, but it still really wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for something that was really involved self-defense. So I actually wound up getting over in the Okinawan karate system for about almost 2 years. I had a Japanese instructor, and he told me, he said, being a black belt in another system, you got to stay a white belt until you're ready to test for black. And I said, I really don't care. I'm not chasing rank. Well, 17 months later, I was tested for first black and was actually promoted to second, but it still wasn't what I was looking for. And then just a couple months later, I actually got hooked up with I joined a Kempo class, and I don't know, it didn't really suit me, but I met a guy the second night I was there that really kind of stuck me on the correct path and got me hooked up directly with Mr. Parker, and I've been there ever since. So I've been there since May 1st, 1986. And when I came into it, having a black belt in another system, I was required to test at the end of 1 year. I was given a provisional black belt during that 1 year, and I was requested to test for first black at the end of that 1 year, and I did, and actually to the date. And I went in and actually learned all the material from white belt to first black, and Mr. Parker was quite surprised I did that. He goes, nobody's ever done that. He said, most people don't get completely out of orange. And I said, but Mr. Parker, I wasn't testing for orange, I was testing for first black. And to me, if I test for first black, I got to be able to represent that rank. And so 10 months later, I got another buddy of mine who I was in Taekwondo with, ready to test for his first black. And I called Mr. Parker, and Mr. Parker says, well, I'm going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico, March 25th, and that was 1988. And I said, well, I'll bring him out there. And he said, do you know the information for second? And I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, you're testing also. And that was very significant that day, because that's when Mr. Parker came up to me after the test and says, you've never had an instructor, now you do. I'm your instructor, and I will take care of you. And he always has. I mean, when I went to California, everybody's doors were open, and he'd told me 2 people out there to get with and train with if he wasn't available, and that was Brian Hawkins and Barbara Hale. And again, both of them their doors were always open, and developed a great relationship with both of them, and still have a great relationship with Brian Hawkins, who we still train together, as of today. So, and we're currently doing some stuff together. So that's kind of how I got into it, and hopefully I'll be here till the day I quit breathing. So it's a lifelong art. It's not something you get into and spend 2 or 3 years in and then going down the road. If you're a true martial artist, it's something you strive to keep getting better. And that's what I really love about Kempo, because it's infinite. I've heard people say, well, I really got bored with Kempo. Well, then you don't have a clue about Kempo then, because you can never get to the end of it. And like I say, I was very fortunate to have the two instructors that I had, and wouldn't take anything in the world for them.